Hello, hello, and welcome to this new episode of Good Morning Source Gaming. I'm your host, NantenJex, and let's go check out on my co-host of the day, Phantom. Hello, Phantom.
Gaming. What's
Yeah,
up?
it's good,
Good
it's
morning,
good.
Source Gamers.
So, for this one, you probably know from the social post, the thumbnail, the title, whatever, we're going to have a very Splatoon-heavy Good Morning Source Gaming this Sunday. But before we get to that, we have our usual, just check up, see how everyone is doing. How are you doing, Phantom?
I'm doing as great as I can be. My stomach has been hurting for like the past few days since my birthday.
Oh no!
So
Did you eat
yeah,
too much cake? Is that
it,
it?
it wasn't even that I ate too much. It was that I didn't eat on my birthday because I was like, oh, we're gonna be having like dinner, and I don't feel like wanting to eat because my stomach feels really bad right now. Like my stomach feels bloated, so I was like, okay, I'll just take some tea to help. And that tea really like smoothed out my stomach. So I was like, oh gosh,
Oh no!
my stomach is just hurting now.
No, it's a rookie mistake there. It's from the country of tea drinkers. You should not be drinking tea on just an empty stomach.
Oh,
Same for coffee, which is what
it tastes
I'm
like
having right now.
I don't do coffee. I'm more of a hot chocolate person.
uh, well, as long as did you have breakfast this morning at least? You eating now?
No,
No. Ah, and
no.
you better after this podcast is done. You better go and have yourself a nice brunch.
Eh, Yeah, I probably will. I just have to figure out what to eat.
Have a crumpet or a muffin or whatever you call it, biscuit or whatever it
A
is that you
muffin,
guys call it over
biscuit and
there.
muffins are two different things.
Yeah, well, I don't know what you call. I think because Colin has shown me a picture of a biscuit in America before, and I'm pretty sure that
Yeah,
is just what we would call like a crumpet over here.
yeah.
And then what I would call a muffin is different from what you guys would call a muffin.
What do you guys call a muffin? What does your muffins look like?
Our muffins are like kind of like small little balms, I guess, but not as
You
puffy.
said
A
bombs?
balm? Do you know what a balm is?
No.
Okay,
Well, I mean, yeah,
a
I know what
balm
a
is like a
bomb is,
big
but what you're
roll.
talking
So,
about.
I guess a muffin is like a flatter roll, like somewhere between a roll and panini, I guess.
Kind of looks like a
Circular.
bagel.
Yeah, it doesn't taste much like a bagel,
Actually,
but it's
actually, no. Oh, this is okay. So this is an English muffin.
yes.
What we call that here is an English muffin. We do have
Ah,
it, but
okay. You call it an
English
English muffin.
muffins and like bakery muffins are very different
A
for us.
bakery muffin's like the little cakes. Like,
Yes.
see, I think that we call that a cupcake.
Well, so even here we differentiate between cupcake and muffin because they're made differently.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Cupcake muffins have the exact same shape, but often a cupcake will also have like icing on it, whereas a muffin is like made, whereas like not made to be like a cake. I think it's the filling of it is made to be like in the same way bread is, and then you usually have something like in it, so you have like banana, pieces of banana in it, or some type of nut or chocolate.
Blueberry or chocolate chip,
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that. Yeah, fair, fair. Actually, to be fair, we might also use the term muffin sometimes as well. I always just think of
Gotcha.
them as cupcakes to differentiate them from actual English muffins instead.
English muffins are great though.
Yeah. No, I love English muffins. I'm not actually a big crumpet fan, despite how British it is.
Oh, biscuits are great
But
though. Oh,
yeah,
biscuits are good.
but no, I am definitely a muffin person. Yeah, so this was meant to be last week's Good Morning Source Gaming, but I wasn't particularly feeling very well.
And I
So
woke up late.
yeah, so we decided to postpone it a week. The Pokken stream will be next Sunday. Those will the roster streams will tend to be like later in the month, just because we always try to give at least a month because we have a week of it being on Twitter and then a week of it being on YouTube, the polls I mean, and then that gives us like 2 weeks to actually come up with the rosters and stuff, which I actually still need to do for Pokken. I haven't looked at. I've been way too busy trying to catch up with work to even think about Pokken. But I know that I know that the graphics have been made for it by Huff, so I just need to actually decide what I'm doing for mine. But that'll be next Sunday. For this Sunday, we're talking about Splatoon. But first, what have we been playing recently that's not Splatoon? I've been playing Persona 3 Reload. Basically, that's been my life the last week. When I'm not working, I'm playing Persona 3 Reload. And it's good. Like, I played Persona 3 Portable last year, like early last year, before they announced Reload, because that's when I think they released it on the Switch. And I didn't like it that much.
What?
Yeah, like, well, coming from someone whose first game was Persona 4 and then going to Persona 5, Persona 3 Portable just felt like a massive step backwards in, like, every regard. And as much as I like Persona 3's characters and stories now, the start of that game is incredibly slow. Like, you don't really start getting into what the main plot is until about July. Like, Strega aren't even introduced until about July. End of July.
I think you need to have done at least the first boss, which also takes a while to get to if you're not just bum rushing through it.
It's not even I think it's like the fourth boss or something. Like, by the time Strega shows up, you have Fuka already. You have everyone. Aegis or Koromaru are like the next party member you get. I think it's Aegis. Oh no, I think yeah. So Strega introduced right before Aegis joins. But only in like one
before Aegis joins?
Yeah.
Wait, really?
Yeah, but like one. It's like
so
before.
earlier.
It's like before you go on holiday, but they're only seen in one random cutscene where they talk to Shinji, and then they show up after the Love Hotel fight, boss fight. They appear at the cutscene that appears right at the end of that, sort of looking down at everyone. But you don't really know anything about them until the next boss fight.
I thought you were able to encounter members of Strega like around the town, like before vacation.
No, you get shown them twice in 2 cutscenes, but you don't interact with them at all until after Aegis joins. Because the first time you interact with them is when you go down to the warehouse and you have the underground boss fight.
No, I guess I've not done that because I haven't played Portable since high school.
Yeah,
and that was. You know,
well, I kind of
at least a decade ago now.
Yeah, I kind of wish I'd played the Fem route of Portable because now I sort of know how different that is from the.
That's what I went through.
Yeah, because it was my first time. Because it was my first time playing anything Persona 3 related, I was like, well, I'll do the default route, and I just didn't find it that interesting. But now that I'm super into Reload, I'm at the moment at the end of November, so I'm pretty sure I'm. As per normal Persona standards, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty near the end of the game. But like, I'm now thinking, man, maybe I should give Portable another go, but just do the FemC route this time instead of the male route. And just to experience how the story changes, because I'll already be familiar with the general idea of it and what all the characters are now, so I might be more willing to put up with how dated that Portable is. Like, that's just my thought on it. But yeah, I've been playing basically a lot of Persona 3 Reload. I'm really just trying to finish it before Princess Peach comes out next Friday. I don't suspect that to be a particularly long game, but most likely I'll be reviewing it, so I just kind of want to focus on it and not be tempted to... I have a feeling I'll prefer Persona 3 to Princess Peach, so I don't want to be tempted to like want to go back and play Persona instead of the game I should be reviewing. So
do you want to do Princess Peach?
Yeah, no, I'm up for. I do want to review it. I do think I'll enjoy it as well. I played the demo. It's pretty easy, but I think there's a lot of charm to it for just based on that. Right. I just know from that Persona's gonna be a game that I rate higher when it comes to like my end of year rankings. I can already see it.
We got a lot of other games throughout this year to get to if you haven't been playing. You know, the ones that have already come out are the ones that are about to come out next week.
Well, with that, what have you been playing right now?
Ooh, I've been playing a lot of mostly a lot of older games, kind of. So for this year, I'm doing a Backlog Bingo challenge, where I if I could actually, I could pull up the tweet if you would want to show it on stream or the
sure.
photo. Let me. Oh, actually, I'll just send the photo.
Yeah, I'm also going to put on some
easier to
background
do.
music, because I just realised.
Yeah.
Put some
There you go.
Splatoon music to fit the theme of today.
There's it on the stream channel if you want. If you're
Yeah, you just gotta let me save it, and then I'll put it up. Let's get your Backlog Bingo up on screen. But which of these then have you been playing?
So the ones in red are the ones that I've like played where it's like, okay, I finished the game, or at least like in Near Replicant's case, that was actually before 2024 started. It was like literally the week of Christmas, where I kind of just ran through the game, and had a little bit of it, like there was a little bit of stress with the game because I didn't. So the way that Nier is, that you probably know, is that there are multiple endings.
Yeah.
And you don't actually have to play like the second half of the game over and over and over again if you save like for ending C and D, I believe. Okay. If you save right before like that final area, you're able to just roll back your save and then do ending D, because the ending saves to the system. And then also ending D is just another choice that you can make at the end of within like the same route of ending C anyways. Okay. And I didn't know that at first. So I had to replay that second half of the game for a fourth time.
Ouch.
And I was like, you know what? I'll just run through it. I'll just do it again. I know it by the back of my hand. Let me just do it. Mm-hmm. And I did it. And I did it within like, I think maybe an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. Even though I think normally it would take, like, if you're just doing it leisurely, it might take you like 4 hours, maybe 4 or 5 hours. But just running past through it is like an hour and a half, maybe, or even just an hour, because I was skipping text and dialogue and all that stuff. Because at that point I already knew it most of it. But still, absolutely amazing game. Wonderful game, beautiful music. The way it looks is amazing. The combat is really fun. It was just an amazing game. So if you haven't played Nier Automata yet, definitely play Nier Replicant first. I haven't played Automata yet, even though I bought it the day it came to Steam. So, but people are telling me, oh, you should play Replicant first because it came out first.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the option, when I played Automata, Replicant wasn't out yet, and I wasn't gonna go back and play the original Nier. So, but
definitely.
How are you deciding these then? Is it like you just pick whichever one you want to do, or is it random? Like,
what I did was that I did categories. So those categories that you see on the right side, where it says PC, Switch, PS3, PS2, previous started. Those were the categories I was like, I picked. It's normally supposed to pick 5 console. I picked 4, and then games that I had previously started but never finished. And Replicant was one of those games where I started the intro of it and then never finished. Mm-hmm. So once I picked a few games where I was like, I want to do this for my title, because another thing is that I can't have any repeated genres on the same platform, and I can't repeat a series throughout all of it. So that kind of made it a little bit easier to pick certain games, because on some consoles I just own a lot of the same games. I'm at a lot of games from the same series, or between different consoles I own from the same series. So I try to avoid those.
Interesting. So do you get to pick which is the next game that you play once you've finished?
So I do it by the way that I put everything on the bingo is by doing a dice roll. Okay. And the way I pick my next game is also by a dice roll.
Oh, nice. That's pretty cool. So you've got Persona 3 Fez on here.
Yeah. So I've owned FES for 2 years now, probably, and I haven't played it because I was like, okay. I think at that time there were already rumors of Persona 3 Reload happening. Mm-hmm. And I think at that point I was like, okay, well, actually I did. Persona 3 FS was one of the games I started. I was maybe an hour into, and then Portable got announced as well. So I was like, oh, well, I'm gonna play Portable. I wanted to play Portable as well. I've been put a lot more time to Portable because I had played it before in high school because I kind of wanted to get back to where I was before, and that I kind of just didn't get to FES, even though I do plan to eventually. Hopefully within this year still, because I would like to actually potentially finish every game in here.
Some of these
IAVT
games
was
definitely
just
longer than others.
yeah. IAVT was just a rhythm game, and I didn't play all of the songs, but I just got to I got to what I felt like I was happy with, which was one of my favorite songs of all time being in the game. So I was like, okay, yeah, that's pretty. It was pretty like middle of the way there. I was like, okay, I'm happy with playing this game. It's pretty decent.
Yeah.
And right now I'm playing Zone of the Enders, the first game. Really enjoying that. It's a little weird, but I like that it's weird. In terms of the combat, it's not as like. If I stepped away for a little bit, I was like, oh, how do I remember these controls? And then as I got to it, I was like, oh yeah, this is like the controls are very simple. But the faster that you are, it's you kind of set your own pace for the game at that point. And then after that, it's kind of, do you understand what the game wants you to do with it not outright telling you? Because there's in some instances it's like, hey, you're gonna need a weapon for this mission. Okay, go pick up the weapon. Now where do you want me to shoot? And it's not completely clear where you have to shoot, and so I had to look up a guide at some points. But it's still very fun. I love the voice acting. I love, no matter how like early 2000s dub it may be, it's really charming in all the right ways. The music is very interesting.
Nice.
I'm just really having a good time with fun. I'm also currently working on a video about it, in relation to it. Because there's something in it that really caught my eye, and I was like, "Oh snap! I want to know if there are other things like that exist, or if there's a name for this thing."
Nice, that's cool. My only experience with Zone of the Enders, I think it is actually this one. When I was at Gamescom years ago now, I went to a meeting with Konami, and Zone of the Enders was one of the games that they were showing off because it hadn't come out yet. And it was like my only time ever playing Zone of the Enders. It was fun. All I know about the series is just this is a popular mech series, and I think Kojima worked on it at one point.
He's the producer.
Yeah, so that's like all I know from it. But I did hear that this one was good, the HD collection.
It is pretty good.
So from this list, the ones that I've played or own, I don't own or have played any of that top row.
Right.
I was curious about Goodbye World just because I like the art style, but I heard it wasn't particularly great. So
I played the demo and I liked what I saw, and I also liked the art style, but I think it was like incredibly short.
Yeah. And then on the bottom, the second row, I've beaten Devil May Cry. I've not played Curse of the Moon 2, but I've played the other Bloodstained games. I've beaten No More Heroes. I've played Vagrant Story, but not beaten it, and I don't know what Elder Souls is. Third row, I've played Air, but I didn't beat it. I've played Code Veronica, but I didn't beat it. I've played Vib Ribbon. And then, like I said, I've played Zone of the Enders for like about 15 minutes, and I've not played Near Replicant, but I want to. Fourth row, I own Signalis, but I've not played it. Don't own Raincoat, don't own Yakuza. I've beaten Fire Emblem Three Houses a whole bunch, and I've never played Fez, but I've obviously played Reload. Gotcha. And then bottom row, I've beaten Scott Pilgrim like 7 times. I like that game. Okay. I really want to play Tulip. Virtua Fighter 4 I haven't played. Killer 7 I want to play but I've not played, and Vanquish I also want to play but I've not played. Here Vanquish is actually really good.
I've also heard good things about it.
Yeah.
Aside from these games, I've also been playing a lot of other Steam games in the meantime. So like, I bought Tekken 7, and even though Tekken 8 is out, I bought Tekken 7 because my computer can't run Tekken 8. No, I don't mean 8. My computer can't run Tekken 8. My laptop can. I found that late. But my computer can run Tekken 7. I was like, oh snap, this game is really fun. So I've been maining Lydia, the final DLC character for that game. Under Night in Birth 2 went on sale for $10 accidentally on Humble Bundle. So I picked that up, and unlike everybody else who got theirs refunded and didn't get their code, I'm able to keep the game. So I've been playing a lot of Under Night, relearning it. Waiting for Guilty Gear to get an update. I was playing a lot of demos because the Steam Next Fest happened recently. Well, I say recently, but it was like last month, and it's just been a while since I've been on a Good Morning Source Gaming. So of the like demos I played like a Perry Nightmare, Children of the Sun, which its demo is still available. You can definitely check it out. It's kind of like a shooter puzzle, whereas like as you shoot each enemy, you start from there,
Okay.
And you can continue from there. You have to aim throughout the you control the bullet. Really, it's amazing art style. Uh, it's weird, but I love it. Telebit is like a puzzle platformer. You're this android bunny that is seems to be escaping this laboratory as you were a test subject. Roland Rascal, of course, whose Kickstarter has now ended, and we did an interview with the art director Artiamne. So definitely check out that interview on our YouTube channel. Demo is incredibly fun. There's also multiplayer in it, so if you want to play with other people or the devs on certain weekends, whenever they host those, you definitely can play with them. I tried the Umbra Claw demo, which is Inti Creates' next title, and I wasn't a fan of it. It was really weird. You get to like your like kind of like cat battle form. As you take damage, each time you take damage, you gain a new ability. So it's kind of like you don't actually want to take damage because that determines the narrative of whether you will stay in like the hell, or if you were able to like make it out to be able to return to your owner in particular, or maybe even just pass on. And the system of get hurt to gain more abilities, but also you don't want to get hurt because that can change the narrative.
Yeah.
But also it's kind of hard to play through some parts of the game because it seems to me like the certain ways that you would be able to get through certain obstacles would be if you had the abilities of when you got hurt. So it's a little confusing. But I do like the art style, I will say that.
Okay.
There's a F-Zero like game.
Say it again.
Umbra Claw.
Umbra Claw. Just gonna Google it so I can have a look myself. Oh, cat.
Yeah. There was an F-Zero. Oh my god, I did a fun stuff. Hold on, give me a second. There was another game, F-Zero like game, literally just straight up F-Zero. Okay. Called Star Racer.
Star Racer. Yeah. Yeah, this looks very SNES F-Zero.
Yeah, it was incredibly F-Zero. I played most of the F-Zero game I played is F-Zero 99. So it was kind of easy to adjust. From that, it looks.
This has music from Banjo Composer. Does that mean Grant Kirkhope? What? Hold on. I just saw this.
Wait,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Banjo...
Grant Kirkhope did the music for this. What the heck?
Really?
Yeah. Game is currently being funded via Kickstarter as well. Oh no! The Kickstarter already ended. The article I'm just reading is a little old.
I was not aware that there was music by Grant Kirkhope.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. It made its goal though. Did it make enough for a Switch port? I cannot see if there's a Switch port option on. No, it doesn't look like there was.
Yeah.
But there was 20 total characters and vehicles. Stretch goal made.
Okay.
Neat.
So at least they were able to complete it in terms of being able to make the game.
Yeah.
So it was pretty fun. I did like it.
Nice.
There's like a whole section where you can fly and then shoot at other enemies. So it's not just like a race, like you're on a racetrack where you also can take to the skies. And if you're good enough, you can also just like fly throughout the entire stage. It's pretty fun. Was there anything else I played? I think that might have been it.
Yeah, cool. That's it.
Yeah.
And
Lethal Company. I've been playing a lot of Lethal Company.
Okay. I've still not played Lethal Company yet. I know I have friends who played it. I know it's the popular multiplayer game right now. I've just not had any time.
You should do a Lethal Company stream, though. I'd love to see your reaction to things that are in that game.
Oh boy. But yeah, no, this Backlog Bingo is a cool idea. Maybe I'll consider it for next year, because my backlog is gigantic. And I'll have moved into my new house by then, and hopefully I'll be able to like sort out space to have stuff, because the problem with me doing anything retro gaming related is I've got a lot of my retro games are at my parents' because I move a lot. Right. So the only things I've got with me are like Switch and PS4 and Steam, and then all my DS and 3DS games because I just got into a big handheld kick. So I brought as many like Game Boy Advance, DS, 3DS stuff around with me. But I'm lacking in GameCube, PS2, Xbox, PS1. Actually, I do have PS1 stuff. We brought it up once because we wanted to mess around with a few PS1 games. But like any of my Xbox games, I don't have any of them with me. Like if I've got space in the new house, hopefully I can bring all that shit up with me, and then I can have easy access to all of my backlog.
Have you visited the new house yet?
Yeah, we should be moving in next month, ideally. We're just waiting for the seller to finish up their end.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but
speaking of like a handheld kick, I've been like on Baiyi a lot, really trying to look for a Wonder Swan.
Oh boy.
Because there is one specific game that I want to play, and of course it's Japan only, because the Wonder Swan was Japan only. And it's a Square strategy game called Blue Wing Blitz.
Blue Wing
Blitz. I've tried to do some bids on it, and of course I lost because everybody is like, "Oh, you're the winner of this bid," and then once the 2-hour mark comes in, everybody starts bidding. I was like, "Okay, yeah, I'm not spending $60 on this game."
Interesting. This is like an airplane strategy game.
Yeah, and I really like the art style, so I was like, "Oh, I want this game." And of course, there's some people that are selling it on Mercari. I was trying to see if I could get it for a lower price doing bids, but it's because there's so much. Even though it's like together, it might be like buying a Wonder Swan and then buying the game might be like $70 to $80, but that's also like import shipping as well that you have to account for. I'm kind of just gonna hold off on it and see if there's potentially any other ways to play it.
See if you can. I almost bought a Wonder Swan last time I was in Japan. Maybe I should take a look next time I'm in Japan. Like I could have got one for like 20 quid, and I was just like, do I really want a Wonder Swan? Like, is there anything? The only thing I'd play on it would be the One Piece games. And they'd all be in Japanese. So cool.
even if you weren't to play anything, if you used to have a cool device that not many other people are gonna have around you, and also it just looks cool to have. It's like it has transparent casing. You can see the inside of it.
It was like I think one of those Wonder Swan crystals with the cyan, see-through cyan color.
Yeah.
All right. Before we move on to Splatoon, just some of the comments I saw. For Gerard, I don't think that Nintendo are ever going to remove online play from NSO. Like, that's realistically the only reason people pay for it. Like, I know that they use all of the old retro games as a selling point, but I know for a fact that not many people actually play them. Like, it's a very small percentage of Switch owners who own NSO, I should also add, actually play any of the retro games. That is definitely a feature that exists just for people like us. So the online is really the only way they can sell that. And with Cyber talking about the games as a service games, I mean, I agree that the sports games were done pretty bad. Mario Tennis Aces ended up great by the end of it, but Mario Golf and Mario Strikers especially felt like they really suffered from the games as a service model. I just don't think Nintendo. I see what, and Switch Sports as well also suffered, I think, with that regard. Like, I know what Nintendo's trying to do with it, but I think that I just think that the games felt way too empty, especially Mario Tennis when it first started. That was like lacking basic features. It's like insane. Like, I think it's fine. Like, ARMS, I think, did the games as a service model the best, and Splatoon as well, where the base game felt feature complete, but then they added, in ARMS' cases, new characters and stages, and in Splatoon's case, more weapons, all the seasons and stuff. If Mario Tennis, Golf, or Strikers felt a bit more content complete, I don't think people would have minded. They just didn't. Thankfully, yes, I don't think Mario Kart's going to go that way. I think Mario Kart is going to firmly stay in the model that Super Smash Bros. Had and Splatoon had. More like Smash than Splatoon, where it's going to have like a pretty standard base game.
Amount of content.
Yeah, with a good amount of content, and then it will have like an expansion pass. Possibly one, maybe even two, given how well the expansion, I forgot what it's called now. We had it for 2 years. The Mario Kart 8 Booster Course Pass, yeah. Like, they'll do that again.
So... Booster Course Pass was also, like, just They did it really well. That's a lot of tracks.
Yeah, it's a lot of tracks. I don't think
for $25. That's a lot.
Yeah, I think the next Mario Kart is. I mean, it's obviously when it launches, it will have less content than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It kind of has to by necessity because it's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe had an entire decade's worth of development behind it. But I think even with the booster course pass, I don't expect the next Mario Kart game to reach the amount of content that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has. But again, I think that's because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is like this weird exception where they kept it going for 2 entire console generations.
Yeah. There's another 8 and they're
but
can improve upon it.
Yeah, I think that's the way they're going to go, especially if the next Mario Kart game is actually a crossover, like a lot of people have been rumoring it about. Like they lean more into the Nintendo side of it as opposed to making it more Mario focused. Because then at that point they'd be dipping into all the IPs for DLC, and I think they will be able to sell a lot more based purely on the brands like of each DLC, like the Metroid DLC and stuff like that. How many people will you tie to the game that could be doing something else? I don't know what you mean by that, Cyber. The issue ends up being how many people will you tie to the game that could be doing something else? Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what you mean when you say that, especially in the context of Mario Kart, unless you meant that in the context of the games as a service in general. Well, alright, let me, okay, like, if you have a team doing updates for the game, those people will not be... Oh, right, I see. You mean from Nintendo's side of things. Right, okay. Well, that's why at least in the case of Mario Kart, that's why they have the that Bandai Namco studio that they opened up that's designated specifically to work on Nintendo licensed stuff. Like, they were the ones doing Mario Kart Tour stuff. They were the ones doing Smash DLC. So they'll just have a dedicated team, a smaller team, but a dedicated one to work on that stuff. In the context of Switch Sports and Mario Strikers and stuff, I think it's very evident that the content we received post-launch was already complete at the start. And just, they didn't release it because they had a release schedule for it. Switch Sports might have needed a bit more work done on it, because I know Golf got delayed, obviously.
Yeah.
For somehow. But, like, I'm pretty confident that both Mario Strikers and Mario Golf were pretty content complete when they launched. Mario Tennis I don't think was, but the other two definitely were, which is why they felt so barren at launch. So, no, one of them is definitely Smash. Studio S is almost certainly Smash, but Studio 2 is almost certainly helping out with Mario Kart. I think there are other projects they'll be working on, but like, just because there's only 2 studios doesn't mean they're only working on 2 things at a time, right? Like, it's also like support. Like, Bandai Namco worked on both Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and
ARMS.
Yeah, did they work on ARMS as well?
Yes, they are.
Okay, there we go. ARMS, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Mario Kart Tour. They've worked constantly with the Mario Kart team, but they're not the lead developers. They're a support studio. Whereas Studio S is like the only developer for Smash. So Studio S can put all their attention on Super Smash Bros. But Studio 2 can help with like everything else, basically, like other studios and stuff. But like just as support. Kind of like how Monolith Soft has its Kyoto and Tokyo side, and one of them is dedicated to just making games for Monolith Soft, and the other one is dedicated to helping out with all of Nintendo's games. Yeah. Also, I do agree with you. I feel like this is a cold take, honestly, Neox, and they definitely should have held Splatoon 3 off for Switch 2.
Really?
I think so. This was something I was going to bring up after the DLC talk. But I guess I'll do it now. I feel like the only reason Splatoon 3 exists is because this is all just theory from me, but I feel like Splatoon 2 was originally intended just to be a better version of Splatoon 1, similar to how Mario Kart 8 was just Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. but then the team decided they were going to make it its own game and change enough. That's why the game feels so similar to Splatoon 1, why its story mode is basically just a retelling of Splatoon 1's with a few tweaks. Like, it's very much just Splatoon 1.5, but they call it Splatoon 2. And I think because of that, the developers of Splatoon really wanted to make a proper sequel to the first Splatoon game, and that's what Splatoon 3 is. And so they worked immediately after Splatoon ended and made a proper sequel to Splatoon. But the problem is, they didn't anticipate that already having a Splatoon game on the Switch sort of made people less willing to play it, pick up another Splatoon game on the Switch, especially if they were going to change things up like they did. So they divided their fan base between Splatoon 3 and Splatoon 2. And given how many people also complain about a number of the changes that happen every season in Splatoon 3 and map design and stuff like that, I think that's pushed more people back to Splatoon 2.
Oh, so yeah, there are a lot of complaints that I've seen people have about Splatoon 3. There are some complaints that even I have about Splatoon 3. I personally do like Splatoon 2 more because it has stages that are still there that I like Moray Towers. My favorite stage of all time.
I think you're the only person who likes Moray Towers.
Like that's a shame because that is the best stage. There's some weapon kits in Splatoon 2 that I prefer. I do wish that every special was just back in Splatoon 3, but I mean they've been working on like revamping those certain specials, so like, you know, Ballers, the crab tank, splashdown is now triple splashdown. So the things that I had complaints about before are changing. The way that you play the game from the very start of the game has kind of changed. I would say it's not too distance focused. There's a lot more ways to, you know, get up close and personal like in Splatoon 2. And I never played Splatoon 1. Well, I played Splatoon 1 like whenever I visited the Nintendo store, but I never owned a Wii U at that time when Splatoon 1 came out.
Yeah.
But for me, Splatoon 2 already felt like, you know, from what I saw visually, the fact that there's so many more stages and there's so many more weapons as well. And they changed, like, there's new specials. To me, it felt like, well, if between what I've seen of Splatoon 1 and having played Splatoon 2, these seem like very different games because you have things like added weapons, added specials, added new weapons types. Dualies. You have to do dualies. You have new stages. Everything around it. It was like, okay, yeah, this is enough for me. And then Splatoon 3 as well has added new features like the Squid Surge or the Squid Roll. Once again, new weapon types, new stages, and almost entirely new specials. Splatoon 3 definitely is a further step in a direction of having more new things than Splatoon 2 was. And I feel like because of that, I'm actually curious of how many people have bought Splatoon 3, because I also feel like even though Splatoon 1 doesn't get updates anymore, because the games play so differently, I could see a person still choosing to buy Splatoon 3 and then also choosing to play both. Especially incentivizing it more, because right now that the expansion passes out, so you have side order, and then also if you already had NSO expansion pass, you got the DLC for Splatoon 2. So it's kind of like, you know, there might be an interest in having more Splatoon, just because, you know, the games are incredibly fun.
Yeah. And
Octo expansion was incredibly fun, and now you have side order, which is out, and it's like, oh, this is not only continuing the story from Octo expansion, but it's also a new type of way to play.
Yeah, let's talk about the DLC in a sec. But I guess going back, wrapping this back around to the start where I said about Splatoon 3 being held off for the next Switch, is I think because they split up with people who still really like Splatoon 2, and Splatoon 2 has a lot already there. And then, like you said, also with the expansion pass allowing you to get the Splatoon 2 DLC for free. And then Splatoon 3 being this new game which people have issues with and stuff like this. And like Neil said, Splatoon 3 sold worse than Splatoon 2, although it was just marginally. I think they've sort of realised that they probably should have done what they do for Mario Kart and Smash Brothers with Splatoon and just have one game per console. And I think the only reason Switch got two is A, because Splatoon's such a new series, they weren't quite sure how to work it yet. And B, because for the developers, I don't think Splatoon 2 felt like a proper sequel in the same way that Splatoon 3 does. I think the next time around, Splatoon 4 is obviously going to happen, and it'll happen on the Switch too. And I think they'll just support that for longer, rather than do what happened with Splatoon 3. Because there was also the issue that Splatoon 3 announced its DLC, Side Order, and we waited like an entire year for it.
Yeah.
And the only thing in the DLC was Side Order and the Inkopolis, Plaza, which I guess let's talk about this now. Let me just change first the visuals we got on here. I'm going to take off your Backlog Bingo, and I'm going to pause the music because where is it? You sent me a video to play as well. I just have to get it up. Oh, whoops! I put it on and then turned it off. All right, we're going to let this video play in the background. Can I put audio on it? I'll put a bit of audio. We'll see if we can hear it. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I'm going to let that videos now. Right, now we're talking about Side Order. So, Splatoon 3 Side Order is the even though they called it as a Splatoon 3 expansion pass, realistically, it's the only real DLC in the expansion pass. I've had a theory about Inkopolis Square, in that when you beat Side Order, you get access to the Splatoon 2 hub, right? Then you can choose between that and the Splatoon 3 hub. And I think they thought, well, if we're going to let people have the Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3 hub, we may as well also give them access to the Splatoon 1 hub. And we may as well also include this as part of the DLC. And I think that's reasonably fair. I don't think adding the Splatoon 1 DLC allowed them to call it an expansion pass, but I don't think it changed how much the expansion pass was going to cost anyway. Like, I think it will have always been priced the same. I think Nintendo's mistake was announcing this and then releasing Inkopolis Square immediately and then forcing us to wait an entire year before the actual DLC came out. Because that just made it look like Inkopolis Square was less of a bonus and more of Nintendo trying to rip us off DLC price-wise.
How much was the price for it again? Was it $20? Or
I think so. Was it not $25?
Let me just check.
It's so long ago now, I don't remember.
The price for it is...
It's going to be something between that.
I'm on the website.
So in the UK, it was £22.50.
Oh, $25. Yeah, it was $25.
So, and like and I think part of their problem is that they marketed it as like Inkopolis Square plus Side Order, and like these are not equal in value at all.
Yeah, no.
One is a bonus and one is like an entire side game.
Right. I thought expansion was $20, whereas that the Plaza just added $5 to it.
That's the thing. I don't think the Plaza. How much was Octo expansion?
Octo expansion was $20.
Octo expansion was $20.
Yes.
Right, fair. And it was just Octo expansion, wasn't it?
It was just Octo expansion. You got Octo expansion, and then afterwards you got to play as an Octoling.
Yeah.
Whereas, you already had the ability to play as an Octoling, so the only thing that you're getting afterwards is, when you beat when you beat Side Order, you get Inkopolis Square, and then you also get weapon replicas. So you get a weapon for each. You get it is that I would say, I'm not gonna say it's a skin because it is a different weapon, but like, you know how like when you beat the main story, you get the hero shot replica.
Yeah.
For each weapon that you complete a run with inside, or you also get that weapon.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, all right, fair enough. I thought they were the same price for some reason, but yeah, I guess they Inkopolis it does raise the price of the overall DLC, even though it really shouldn't, because there's really not a lot to it. I mean, it's just a hub
Yeah.
world.
It's just the hub world. You know, there's the only cosmetic. Well, yeah, the only cosmetic things that you're getting from it is like, oh, any characters that were there before, now like they might have like a new design, so like you get to see Spike again, which is cool. But outside of that, it's kind of not much. Like you'll use it if you like Plus Plaza. I use it because I never played Splatoon 1. But other than that, it's not that big of a thing, and
Yeah.
probably something I wouldn't have.
I think it's something to definitely
Yeah.
include. They should including in the DLC is fine, but I think if the wait between it and Side Order had been way shorter, like a month or so, I think it would have been way better. Yeah, announcing it. I think, and if they had announced, because like Neoxon said here, there's the possibility that Side Order was delayed. I mean, it feels like it probably was, right? It was meant to come out last year, but then came out this year. But I think like, if it was still going to come out at the end of the year, they probably shouldn't have released the expansion pass as soon as they announced it. Like, they should have at least waited until a couple months before. If they were going to announce it a year later, they shouldn't have had it available immediately to buy, because I think that's part of what it is. I think people buying it and then having to wait an entire year to actually play what the main part of it that they paid for really soured a lot of people on it and made what would have been a neat little extra part of the DLC just far worse, worsely received.
I don't know about delayed, but I think part of the weird thing is not weird like I'll say weird is that with Splatoon 1 and 2, you know, at first you're like, oh, we never had a paid expansion, paid anything to the DLC. And Octo Expansion being the first one, it was announced when the game was at that point a year old. The game was already a year old at that point. Season 3 was at the same time was announced. Version 3 was announced. And I can at that point I think we got it. I don't remember when Octo Expansion came out, if it was later. Oh, it was March 8th, 2018. So it was later within that year. I believe just the next month, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Octo Expansion was announced, I think, February, and then the Inkopolis came out at the end of February, like when the season changed. So it was only a few weeks between the DLC getting announced and then Inkopolis being made available.
They got was available that early, really?
Yeah, because it happened. Because they tend to. Because it's the same for Side Order. Side Order happened effectively an entire year after Inkopolis did, when the swap from the fresh season to whatever the current season is called, or the winter season to the fresh season. I don't know the names of these. From the winter chill season to the spring season. That's when.
Okay.
When that happened, that was when Inkopolis dropped, which is the same thing here for Side Order. And those rumoured Splatoon amiibos will probably drop when it changes the next season, from spring season to the sizzle season, or whatever it's called.
Gotcha.
Which might be the last season. I actually don't know when Splatoon 3's ends.
Well...
But
I think each time it's been 2 years.
Yeah, they said it was going to be this year that it ends. I just don't know if it'll be the sizzle season or the next, or the fall season.
But I feel like because you already had, it kind of felt obvious that we already done one paid expansion pass. We're gonna do another. We're gonna let you know now.
Yeah.
And while I did like that, you're going to continue doing that, I like knowing that you're going to continue that, because Octo Expansion was amazing. So that means we're going to get something that is just as fun as Octo Expansion, and we did. But announcing it that early made it feel like, hey, when are we going to get Side Order?
Yeah.
Because, there was a lot of wait time in it. And if you're already not playing too much of Splatoon 3, even though they are adding like a whole lot of content with the different seasons, then you're kind of just waiting for the DLC, and that's gonna end up being a long wait. Whereas if they had announced it maybe if they had announced it in 2023, then it would feel like less of a wait because in the same way that Splatoon 2 came out 2017 and then we find out about the paid DLC a year later in February 2018, we would have had it, okay, 2023 we learned about the DLC. Now it only feels like in only a few months we're gonna be getting the DLC rather than a whole year and some months.
Yeah, no, it totally does. Although I guess now the next question was the wait worth it in the end? Was side order worth waiting for?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't. So once again, I can't say whether if it was like delayed or not because I would have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume that they're probably with the fact that they're working on content at the same time for the main game and also working on DLC. Maybe they had two different teams on it, or maybe because they're also doing things like doing a lot of stage changes. I really wonder how the development side is looking at it. Is like, are both teams working? I mean, is there one team that's working on both the extra content in the main game and the DLC, or there's two separate teams?
They probably had a handful of people who were working like on the updates. Like, I don't know how many people they dedicate to the updates, but I would say that most of the team was working on side order because that's the thing that required the most new content. Realistically, all the monthly updates require slightly new weapons and
and Big Run as well. Forgot about Big Run.
Update maps and then just adding salmons to different levels for Big Run.
Yeah.
But
they're playing around with stages a lot more.
Yeah, but side order is a whole new content. But yeah, so you enjoyed side order.
I really did enjoy side order. It's so as you're watching that, so you playing when you first start side order, you're playing through the tutorial.
Yeah. And
you will do like a really short run within that tutorial, and that's when the actual game starts. Where you get different keys to unlock these lockers, and with each locker you will either get a piece of Maria's diary or Marina's diary. Marina's diary or a weapon. And with each weapon you can do a run, and it's not just that you completed that run, you don't play anymore, because for each run you have 3 different keys, but you can keep playing those runs to change how you are using this weapon, using your sub weapons, utilizing Pearl as a drone. It's basically a roguelike, and roguelike action Splatoon. And with my first run, I beat it like right away.
Not the tutorial run, you mean the main run?
No, I mean like once the tutorial ended.
Yeah.
I did my actual run, I beat it right away.
See,
it took me like 2 hours.
I heard a lot of people say that, and I guess I just suck at Splatoon. Because it took me way longer to finally beat a run. On my first run, I did pretty well, admittedly. I got to like the 16th floor. I got halfway. I think giving you the Julies to start with is an interesting choice, because they're like really good. They're like a really good weapon for this.
So that's in the tutorial.
But you get the Julies as well. They're the first weapons you get for the main run.
Oh yeah, that is true. Yeah, I just didn't use them for sure.
Yeah, like, cause I use them straight away because they're just way better. But like, it took me like I after getting pretty far in my first run, every subsequent run I did awful at. It wasn't until I unlocked the Splatling that I finally managed to complete a run.
That's very interesting.
Which is surprising for me, because the Splatling is not a weapon I would normally play in Splatoon. But in this DLC specifically, I was super useful.
So I did my first one with the splatter shot, and although that's like not a weapon that I usually use, it's like, well, I play like a lot of weapons that are kind of similar, so there's not anything too different. That, and I use rollers.
Yeah.
And one thing I think about the game is that the first 2 weapons are set, but the order of how you get every other weapon from the locker is randomized.
Yes, it is.
So how you get to each weapon could take either longer or faster than another player. Which means that you might have done your run of a certain weapon before somebody else.
Yeah, I
But I
realized
did
this
spot a
talking.
shot.
I realized this talking to my housemate because I told him I'd done it with the Splatling, and for him, the Splatling was the last weapon he unlocked before eight's weapon, which is always the last one. And so when he saw me playing through it a bit later, he was like, "I thought you'd done all this already," and I was like, "No, this is the Splatling was like the third one I unlocked," and he was like, "Wait, what?" So yeah,
Okay.
I think that's a really interesting decision to make it like the order you unlock random, because realistically, only you wouldn't notice unless you talk to someone else.
Right.
So it's a choice, but I think it's I think it's a fun one because some people will like obviously be stronger with certain weapons than others.
Right.
And so like
And then-
trying to get to the, it sort of forces you to, it may force you to use a weapon that you're not as familiar with. Like for me, I don't use the umbrella at all, but it was the first one I unlocked because it's Marina's weapon. And I try. It took me a while. It was like one of the last weapons I think I actually completed the game with was the umbrella because I'm not good with it.
Umbrella was one of the ones where I was like, oh, I'm doing really great with it. And then I died on the last stage. And the thing about it, like, if you die, in order to, so you are able to, like, continue your run from where you left off at. But it costs pearls to do that.
Yeah, I never did that, by the way.
I would do that because I was like, I want to finish this run because I have this kit that I built and I was having a lot of fun with. I want to get back to that. And, you know, of course, if you die again, then you now have to go play a different route or with either a different weapon or with the same weapon and, you know, get more pearls, which is like, well, if you could, now I could potentially beat it this run. Would I go back and complete my other run? Probably, yeah, because I mean, that's still a different build.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what makes Side Order so fun, is that even with the same weapon, you could change how you play it. Because like for instance, with my first run, I was being very careful by choosing like certain not as difficult stages. So I'd be like, okay, I really want to get to the boss, experience, you know, what these aspects of the story, and figure out what happens afterwards, what's going to happen after I complete it. And so throughout that run, there were times where I was like, oh, I'm definitely gonna go to vending machine because that, you know, skips a stage and you get, it's like a freebie. I'm going to pick a less difficult stage, that way I'm just, you know, I can cruise through it while also, you know, just getting a chip that's gonna help me. It's, you can kind of make it as hard or as easy for yourself, not just by the stages that you pick, but then also with the hacks as well.
Yeah. See, that's what I spent all my pearls on. I prioritize getting the hacks, specifically prioritizing the ones that would get my movement and make the enemies weaker and my attack stronger more than anything else. I left a lot. I left a lot of the pearl drone ones towards the end, and I kind of feel like I should have at least gotten some of them a lot earlier, because the pearl drone in this is like absolutely busted. Like
Pearl drone is a great asset.
Insane. Like the first, when I did win with the Splatling, a big part of that was because I'd maxed out the ink strikes on Pearl, and so she was just blasting ink strikes non-stop while I was charging up my Splatling. And it was a massive boon to me clearing through the levels.
See, like where you went with hacks in regards to like making your enemies, like we said, weaker.
Yeah, because there's you can get hacks that make the enemies do less damage, and then hacks that make you do more damage.
So I went in the route of increasing my defense. So I added like more hit, like being able to get hit more, or being able to have more lives, and then also like my armor increases.
Yeah.
So like if okay, I want to keep building up armor so that way, because I'm pretty sure armor carries out through stages. So like if you know you get 2 armors, you go to the next stage, you still have your 2 armors. So it's like, oh, I want to be able to constantly like continue on my run as much as possible. Is kind of what I was aiming for.
Yeah,
so that way I didn't have to, you know, do a whole nother one.
Maybe that's why I struggled, because armor was one of the things I left to the very end. It was something I was like not prioritizing. Lives I did, and continue prices I did for a little bit. Like I made sure once I hit like having 3 lives, I then just ignored lives from that point on and focused on other things.
Yeah, I only did 3 as well.
Like vending machine discounts. I realized I should be putting that into because one of the ways I played, you were talking about how you can customize difficulty. I'm a big completionist, and I noticed that you get like when you get the different palettes, the different color palettes. If you equip 1 or 3 or 5, you get different speech things from Act, Marina, and Pearl. Kind of reminded me of like the Pikmin animal logs, where you get like Louis and Olimar's little notes on the animals. You get the
you
notes
mean like in the chip decks, right?
Yeah, in the chip decks, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I made it my mission to try and fill all of them out.
Right.
And so I prioritized being able to stack chips so that I'd always finish a run with a new set of 5 or at least. Which meant that I was picking whatever levels would give me the chip I needed to keep going, even if it meant doing vigorous, which definitely bit me in the ass a few times. Because some of those stages do, especially this early on in the game, do not take prisoners. Those gelatins will murder you.
I think in my first was it Splattershot run, I only did like one vigorous stage. I was like, I'll try it, and I also it wasn't. I think it was it either was a dangerous stage or a vigorous stage, or it might have been both. But I do remember doing at least one of them, and because I was just trying to be super careful. I was like, I don't want this run to end.
Yeah.
But was it with the chip decks? I was kind of focusing on trying to be able to at least get each chip at least once, and which I still haven't done, because I started to realize, oh snap! As I kept playing, I was like, oh, there are still some stages that I haven't yet encountered yet that I'm seeing my friends are playing on, and that's still the case that I haven't run into some stages, which means that there's also, I want to say that it seems like chips are attached to stages.
I don't. Maybe so. I did get every chip. So the way I finished this is I've unlocked every locker and got every weapon. I've beaten it with 8s. I've beaten it with every weapon, including 8s. I've unlocked at least one of every hack, but I haven't maxed out all the hacks. And I haven't, unfortunately, I haven't got 5 of everything, so I haven't filled out the chip deck's notes. But I did get one of every chip. I'm not convinced, though, that I've done every level that there is to see. I've definitely done every level in the first 10, and I may have done every level between floors 11 and 20, but I think those final floors 20 to 30, there's probably still a few that I'm missing.
Okay.
Because even in 8's run, which was the last one I did, I was like still encountering new stages, and by that point I definitely had filled out the chip decks with every chip. So
because I haven't finished every stage and I also don't have every chip, that's what made me think, oh, they're connected.
I mean, they might be, because there's a chance that I got a chip through a vending machine,
right,
rather than getting it through the stage you'd probably get it from. But I just know that you can get every chip without having done every level. Because I definitely haven't done every level.
Yeah. And I'm still like actively playing through it, and still Splattershot is the only one that I've actually been able to complete for every other weapon that I've tried doing. Because also I haven't gotten every weapon because I haven't unlocked all the lockers yet. Because I keep dying. My limit ends to be like level either floor 23 or like floor 29.
Oh.
And I keep, or with my Brella run, I think I actually made it to floor 30, but then I died. I kept getting hit by the reef sliders because they come out so fast. I was like, oh wait, how do I didn't have enough time to dodge it, so I lost like 3 times in a row.
You mean in the final boss for that?
Like, yeah, in the final boss.
Yeah, the reef sliders, the one that I hate in the final boss is the killer whale attack that he does. I despise that attack.
I feel like that one was easier to dodge, but the reef slider was like super difficult to dodge for me.
Yeah, we'll talk about all the bosses, because I do want to give them their own little segment. But yeah, no, I found with the chips, the color chips, that the best way to do it is to obviously each gut weapon comes with its own special chip, two sets of chips that it favors. and you can turn off the hack to get more of them if you want to. I found that the Pearl drone is like by far the best one to focus on, just because Pearl as a support unit is like absolutely busted.
Yeah.
But then after that, it's the power ones, stuff like Poison Ink or Faster Shots. Great.
Radius,
Yeah.
splash radius is also incredibly good.
Yeah, slow down the enemy ink as well. Stuff like that I found to be way more valuable than some of the specialized ones or stuff like the sub-weapon ones. I do this in regular Splatoon as well. I often forget to use my sub-weapons a lot of the time.
Really?
Yeah, and so it was the same thing here. I was like, I actually didn't know what the mine was when I was first playing through. I was like, I don't understand what sub weapon this is. This isn't doing anything. And then I realized, oh, it's a mine hidden in the ink. That's what it. That's what's going on here. And then it actually turned out to be super useful for the sniper specifically. But
it's also especially useful for what's it called, the splat zone stages.
Mm-hmm.
When those enemies roll in. Yeah, those stages can be incredibly hard, and if you have the ink mine, it can help a lot.
Yeah.
In some cases, it also can't if its zones are very far away from one another.
Yeah. Should we talk about the different stone types and which the different floor types and which ones are our favourites? I think there's. Correct me if I missed any. There's the defeat all the enemy hordes, where you have to destroy their spawn points.
Right.
Which is basically just kill every enemy. There's the zone secured, where you have to hold a certain spot, or sometimes 2 spots for a certain amount of time. There's
tower control, kind of.
Tower control, where you got to get the tower to the end of a level. There's the ball one, where you got to get the ball into the hole. And then there's the one where you have to kill the super fast fish. Whatever they're called, I can't remember.
Super fast fish?
You know, they're like the moonfish, and there's 3 of them, or sometimes. Well, between 1 to 3 of them, and they run away from you when you get close.
Oh, yeah, the ones on the unicycle.
Yes, there's that mission.
Yeah, there's those as well.
Am I missing one? Is there a 6th mission type?
Zones, tower, ball, enemies. I think that might be all of them.
Yeah, I think that's all of them. And then you obviously get the variants on them, like the room is all dark, or enemies are more aggressive.
You got like the arpeggios that will keep striking you from above, and then also the different bonuses like, hey, don't walk, don't walk, only swim, only swim, don't, or vice versa.
Yeah, the opposite one.
Or you can't use Pearl at all. There's you get saturation bonus, which gives you like all the chips of blood color. That jump as well too.
I think so. Out of those 5 mission types, I'm trying to think which one I think was my favorite. The one I did the most was definitely the chasing down the fish one, just because it came up quite a lot. I think the ball one is by far the easiest, especially because the goals for the balls are like magnets, so they suck the ball in. And obviously destroying every enemy is like the hardest one because those stages usually just flood you full of enemies that can murder you immediately.
I feel like the 8-ball ones they're easy, but because they're so easy, they kind of end up not being my favorite. And it's not even that I don't like them; it's more of that like they're fun, but they're not like the most fun that I'm having. I feel like the destroy enemy ones can be, depending on the danger and also what other attributes you have added to them, like either bonuses or the dangers. They can be either the hardest stages and really difficult, as in like they're the hardest stages and they can be very fun, or they could be the hardest stages and be incredibly stressful.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like the unicycle ones, the moonfish ones.
Yeah, the gelatins, moonfish.
Because there are ways to cut off their gelatins is what they're called. As like the stream is literally as if I just showed our stream. They are. I feel like they're the most fun because there are ways that you can get them really early, and if you're able to do that, it ends up kind of being more of like a speed challenge in of itself. Where like, oh, you see how fast you beat this one this time in comparison to last time.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that's the gelatin ones are the most fun, specifically because you've got a lot more control out of it. You obviously the enemies are there for you to avoid and to just be hazards, but
Right.
like the objective isn't just to take on waves of them. It's working around that to do a specific goal. For that reason, I
Right.
also think the tower is a really good one.
That
Because you
yeah,
need
especially.
your priority isn't on the enemies; they're just hazards. It's about getting the tower to the end, and how you can do that while avoiding damage, I think is pretty good. I don't like the zone. The zone one is like I don't like it because it's frustrating, but I find and part of it is because it's hard and frustrating, but I also just
Yeah.
think that it's like in some levels particularly it just gets very repetitive. Like there's one zone one where the two zones are on either side, and there's like a hole in the middle to drop down to a lower level.
Oh yeah,
And then
there
all
is.
the enemies come from one end, and they spawn like it'll spawn like one of those flying sprinkler enemies on both sides,
Right.
and they'll spawn one after the other. And I find the thing with that level is you're just spending your entire time flying over to one side on the booster pad, shooting the flying enemy, and then flying back to the other side to shoot the next flying enemy, and then back to the other side, and you're just doing the same motion basically for 60 seconds.
That is exactly how I played that level.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
the way I'm sure they intend for you to play that level. But when you do that so much and that appears so frequently, it does start to get, I think, a little bit boring. Maybe that's just an issue with the map design as opposed to the level idea. Like there's certainly some ball levels that can be super boring, because it's like that really early beginner one where it's basically just a straight line, and you just
Yeah.
gotta shoot the ball to the. It's like it's unnecessarily long, and there's like there's like no challenge in it. I know it's a
Yeah.
beginner level, so it's to be expected, but it almost always comes up in the run. So,
I only had gotten that like once.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't even realize that. Oh, this was a stage, and I was like, oh, this is really easy. It was also like really fun because it's just like it is a straight line, so it's
Yeah.
kind of like
I liked
like you
it.
can mow down the enemies that are coming towards you
Yeah,
while just hitting them with the ball.
I liked it the first time because it was like a unique map layout, because they like to repeat the map layouts a lot and just give the different objectives.
Yeah.
But this was completely new, so I thought, oh, that's cool. But it came up basically every other run after I'd first
Oh.
found it, and I was just like, okay, this is a really easy one now. I can just turn my brain off for this one and just go for it. Which didn't make it particularly fun for me by the end of it. But that's, I guess, a level issue more so than the actual objective issue.
I feel like in some cases the objective can be a lot of the issue because for instance, if you're using a sniper, it might be a lot easier to get the sprinkler that is on the other side of that map. Whereas if you're using a Brella or any other short range weapon, you will probably have to constantly fly back and forth.
Yeah.
And I think I got that stage with a Brella where I was constantly flying back and forth. Where I finally completed it after maybe 4 minutes. It took a really long time because also when you don't, I believe if you don't hit the checkpoint, if if the enemies take the stage, your count for that decreases. So it's not like it's not like whereas when you're actually playing Splat Zones in the ranked/anarchy mode, when you reach your amount of remaining points to get to 100, when the other team takes control, you just get a penalty. And it's like, okay, now you have to, some points to catch up with before you can start getting back to like your main. Hey, now you're back to your how fast can you get to 100 count? How long can you defend it for? Whereas in side order, it's you defended it for this amount of time, but also now that the enemies are taking control of it for so long, you're going to start losing your points.
Yeah, it goes back.
And because the sprinkler enemies are definitely the ones that are usually going to take up the ones that take away that zone from you the most. But when you also have enemies that are now attacking you at the same time and they can leave trails of ink, it now becomes a lot more difficult to now then manage to get back to each zone and now control them all. Just control them all while you're mid stages already.
Yeah.
Because at the start of the stage, you're basically given the zone for free. To collect it, to get it. But once you're now in the stage, okay, that's where like the actual challenge comes in, which I would say because of that, Splat zones end up being the hardest type of stages. I would say.
Yeah, that Sisyphus one still gives me nightmares.
Is Sisyphus the one where you're in the middle, you're flying in between the two ones that are on the side?
It's not the one where they fly in between the side. It's the one where there's two. So it starts. The main spawn point is in the middle of the stage. It's 2 floors, and the 2 spawn points for the enemies are on both floors, and then the zones are in the corner. And it's like you go up from the bottom, up, turn left. It's like you go up in a sort of spiral up to the top, and then down a spiral on the other side. It looks like a figure 8 from above, basically.
Let me look it up because
I
think Sisyphus was one that I actually haven't done.
It's like the worst Splat Zone one. It's awful. You got it like the 2 spawns constantly spawning enemies, and they spawn 3 sets of the sprinkler ones every time that move in a set pattern. And it's like it's the fact that you have to go from Splat Zone to Splat Zone constantly, and it's not particularly easy to get from one to the other. Makes it like incredibly frustrating every time. It's a vigorous one for a reason.
Cruel Sisyphean 8 shit. Yeah, I have not done the stage before.
You will not have fun when you get to that stage. Let me tell you now.
Hopefully I never run into it though.
Alright, on the video we're up to the bosses, so let's talk about the bosses of this, because there's basically 4 of them. There's 4 bosses, each one has a new difficulty. Each one has like an easy version and a hard version. The one on screen right now is the easy version of what is the final boss.
Yeah, which I do wish it cut this Marina being the boss. Now I haven't finished it, so maybe I doubt it, but maybe she does again. But I wish that we got to see this boss again because it just looks really cool.
It looks cool, but it's basically is just the final boss again. Like the way the tentacles spawn and you fight, and then it attacks you.
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Yeah, it's exactly
just different environment.
Yeah,
and
you got a smaller environment. You got less tentacles to have to destroy, and it does less attacks. It just spits those out instead of doing the reefer and stuff like that. But so you got that boss, then you got the big ball. The big ball guy.
Yeah. Which I never ran into on my first run, so I didn't know it existed. Until like I think my second or third run, and I was like, oh wow, this one is it can be very long.
It can be
that
very
one can
long.
be very long.
I think it's my least favourite of the bosses, because it's not particularly hard at all. And it just takes ages sometimes. Depending on what weapon you've got. It can just be a bit of a slog to get through.
I think that one might be my favorite, actually.
Really? But
I feel like for the replicas, it's because you kind of see where they land. It's like, okay, if you have your special charged already, you could immediately, and also if you have the chip where enemies get damaged if they're on your ink. If you've already painted that floor, aside from the one that does a splashdown on entrance, then you kind of can get them right away.
Yeah.
And for I don't remember the names for the other one.
The spinning
the tower one.
Yeah.
I do like that boss. I like it, but I feel like it's kind of like the more this is like the most standard boss, as in like it feels like something that I would also be playing like the normal Splatoon story mode.
I agree with you.
That's not a slight against it or anything. It's just that it feels very much like, I know how to do this one, and you can speed up how fast you get through it by also defeating the upper towers first rather than defeating the main tower. Because if you defeat the main tower, that's when the wave will actually activate.
Yeah.
If you get too close.
Mm-hmm. See, you say that. See, this is why I think that's my favorite of the 4 bosses, because it is like the most boss-like one. But there are ways to do it faster if you're good enough, if you're skilled enough. It's got a nice variation of attacks, especially its more harder variants. And it gives you like forewarning of what these attacks are. If you look at the little screen that's on each floor, it tells you what each layer of it will do. It has things to deal with if you get too close to it, like to try and avoid its big attacks when it shoots at the wave on the floor. Like, it's the most boss feeling one, but it doesn't feel like a slog. Like, I don't think that the replicant clone boss fight is particularly interesting either, because it's like basically just fighting a bunch of... It's like a regular splat wars, turf wars battle.
Yeah.
You're just fighting regular inklings, which is always a mission in these single player stuff. But like you said, that can be really easy if you've got the right stuff. They get slowed down by inks. You know where they're always going to spawn.
Right.
But at least that's like mercifully short. Like, I've beaten that boss in like less than a minute. I think the fastest I've ever beaten the ball boss is like 6 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like just long, and it's like long, and it doesn't change a lot, especially the easy variant of it. The easy variant of it has less attacks, so it really is just a matter of chasing it around and firing at it as much as possible.
So the reason why I like it is because you can take your time with it.
Okay.
Because it can be the case that if like how I was stating with the same thing, similar with the replicas, if you have chips that put damage, that slow down enemies and damage them when they're in your ink, you can, before even attacking it, you can just paint the entire floor. And not only that, but if you're being slow, if you take your time with it, you can also shoot it at different angles and try to make sure as best as possible that it doesn't hit the bumpers, causing it to, not only fly into the air, but then send out enemies or the arpeggios. So like you can kind of prevent it from attacking in certain ways by taking your time with it and controlling the direction of it. Which is why I like it. There's a lot of, and not only also that, because there's a lot of space. There's a lot of space where you can either like fight from a distance, depending on the weapon that you have, or you can fight up close. But when you're fighting up close, that now means that you have to be more careful of the direction that you want to send it towards.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of control in that boss.
Yeah.
Which is kind of very funny, giving the theme of of the story.
Yeah. What do you think of the last boss?
I wish that every time I fought the last boss, it was like that first time I fought the last boss. That entire like killer wheel segment with Pearl, everybody, kind of just being together for the music. It's really cool. That the boss when you fight it for the first time it's really fun. It's amazing. It's over the top. And every other time you fight that boss, it's still just as fun, but you wish that you kind of had that over the top sequence again. But you do get to hear what's his name? What's the little dude's name? I don't remember. Smallest.
Yeah.
You do get to hear Smallest's like dialogue each time, which is very cute. It adds like a lot of comedy to it.
I am impressed at how much dialogue variety there is. Like, it's designed so that every time you get up there with a new weapon, it gives him a different name each time. It has like a number pun within the name.
That's cute.
And there's different dialogue every time between all the characters. And like, there's even dialogue for if you do go back with a weapon you've already beat it with. So I beat it with the Splatling twice because I missed I missed one of the Splatling's exclusive color chips. My first run through.
Wow.
So I
went the charge one.
The quick charge one is the one I got. Actually, that one's a variable one. I cut the hold. Oh, which one was it? I don't remember. It has two unique ones, I think, and I missed one of them the first time because I didn't realise. So I did it again, and there's unique dialogue for doing it again, like with a specific weapon. I thought that was really neat. Yeah, I agree with you. The first time is definitely the most satisfying boss fight, especially the ending. I think, like a lot of the levels, how good this boss is really does come down to what weapon you have.
Right.
Because there are some times where I fought this boss and it's been super fun, and then there are other times where I fought this boss and it's been insanely frustrating. Like, headache-inducing frustrating. But I suppose that's part of the. I guess that's varied depending on how you are as a player with what weapons you're best with. I think it's a good final boss though.
Yeah, it's a very good final boss.
Yeah, it's probably from pure gameplay perspective, probably better than the main story's final boss. Like that's really cool on a spectacle level, but I think this one's like a slightly more interesting boss fight with the gameplay of Splatoon.
So I actually do not have experience with the final boss of the actual main game.
Oh, really?
I have not yet beaten the actual story mode.
Damn.
I was gonna try to rush through it before Sideorder came out, and then I remembered, oh wait, the update's not gonna drop the next day. It's gonna drop 8 p.m. our time. So I was like, oh snap! Well, and then I just hopped right into it, right into the DLC.
Well, I suppose that's fine because this DLC doesn't follow on from the main story's DLC. It follows on from the Splatoon 2's DLC, Octo expansions. Yeah. So let's talk about the characters in the DLC for a bit. I actually really like that it follows on from Octo expansions because obviously the main campaigns have been kind of following on from each other. Splatoon 2's is basically a retread of Splatoon 1's story, and then Splatoon 3 has Callie, Marie, Agent 3 comes back. They all show up for this follow-up story. Octavio is also in the main story, but it's kind of also doing its own thing. I kind of like how you're playing as the same Agent 8 from Splatoon 2 Octo expansion, with Pearl and Marina being a big focus again in this one. And like a lot of this one, so the Order idea is obviously based on the fact that Order lost against Chaos in the Splatfest for Splatoon 2, which I think is a neat way to make the setting. But I like that like a lot of Marina's motivation through her diary entries comes from her trying to fix all the issues that appeared in Octo expansion.
Yeah,
and trying to help all of the Octolings that were
was it satirized or not satirized?
No, it's not satirized. Sanitized. That's the word.
Sanitized.
Yeah. And it kind of delves a lot more into Marina's backstory thanks to Act, as like you find out a lot about when she was an Octoling in the army. Because the only thing you really knew about that is that she was an officer in their army, and then she watched Callie and Marie's performance during the end of the first game and was so captivated by them that she like left and wanted to become a musician instead, and then met Pearl. I like that you get a lot more about that through Act, and you even get diary entries from Act, which is kind of neat.
Wait, you get diaries from Act? What you mean, just with Act in them, or like
Act diaries? From Act. You only get them when you do Agent 8's run at the end.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, instead of getting keys, you get Act's stuff, and you even get a picture of Act when she's not sanitized.
I did see that online.
Yeah, I actually really like her
she's
design.
Also wearing.
I quite like Act's design a lot, but I quite like her non-sanitized look. I think slightly more. Not because of the green skin or anything like that. Just I think they give her a different outfit. It might be because she doesn't have the hat.
Oh yeah, I don't think she did have the hat.
Yeah, but it's cool. I just like how it is a follow-on. I do think it's kind of. I know Marina is meant to be a like tech whiz, but this whole idea of her making an entire VR world. And super AI while also doing a world tour is definitely stretching the limits of my capability on here. I know she hires Octoling engineers to help her out and all this, but this is some quite elaborate VR worlds.
Yeah.
To be making while also doing music, insane. On tour.
Part of it was confusing to me. The story, because I understood. Okay, she made this world. Okay, yeah. How did Smallest take control of it? That's the point where I was like, maybe that is explained in the diaries, and I just haven't gotten to that yet.
Yeah.
Or they said it in the dialogue, but it wasn't clear enough for me to understand. Like, hey, was it like Marina's feeling that created Smollusk, and then Smollusk took control,
No, it
or
is.
was it Smollusk was a different entity that just happened to get control?
No, Smollusk is the AI that Marina made to monitor and keep the VR world like going and run
Okay.
it. Why Smollusk is acting like this is explained in the diary entries and through Smollusk's own dialogue as you get through it with different weapons
Okay.
and stuff. Like there is an explanation for how it ended up this way, and I think it's a pretty interesting theme that they're going
Mhm.
for here. Given everything that Marina has gone through and the Octolings in general have gone through, it's actually like you got the plot point of like Inklings versus Octolings that makes up the main story, at least in Splatoon 1 and 2. But I think the Octolings' own personal story of how they were subjugated and then they're slowly being brought back into society and how some Octolings deal with that
Mhm.
is like it's a key part of this story, and I think it's like probably the most interesting plot that
Right.
Splatoon's tried to tackle. I'm curious to see if this is the end of it, or if Splatoon 4's DLC, if they'll just continue the trend of having it be Octoling focused. Um,
I wonder about that because one of the things that I realized that it's from Splatoon 2, you had a new idol group, and now you're focusing on that group in the DLC. Okay, that's
yeah,
cool. And also the Octolinks. That's cool. Splatoon 3, you're continuing to focus on them. Because the main story also has focus on Off the Hook.
yeah.
Is Splatoon 4's DLC going to focus on, I'd assume, would either potentially focus on Off the Hook, or either the main story would focus on Off the Hook. Because but like, so that's kind of the confusing part because of course a lot of that is also dependent on what the final fest ends up being,
Yeah.
but also because it's always been the Squid Beak Splatoon or Platoon that is the main story. I c- Now I haven't finished it, but I can't imagine Off the Hook being part of. Oh, my bad, Deep Cut. My bad, I meant Deep Cut.
Yeah.
I can't imagine Deep Cut be taking the role of that in the main story because, from my understanding, they're like antagonists. Their whole thing is like anarchy.
Yeah.
So
I think that I mean, there's a way I think they'd be more allies in the main story. I guess the question comes down to as we get into more Splatoon games later on, they're going to introduce more idols for each one, and
right.
those new idols are going to have to be focuses of the main story to
Hmm.
give them more personality. At what point are they going to have to retire Pearl, not just Pearl and Marina, but Callie and Marie, and let the other idols take over? Because obviously Callie and Marie were the
Right.
first idols, but they've been the focus of like 3 story modes now.
Hmm.
Like Off the Hook, oh god, there's so many names. Deep
Yeah, Off
Cut,
the Hook is right. No,
no,
you were
Off the
right with
Hook.
Off the Hook.
Oh
Off the
yeah,
Hook, Pearl Marina.
no, it's the other one I wanted to talk about.
Oh, Deep Cut.
Shiver,
Yeah.
yeah, Deep Cut, yeah. Deep Cut got to be relevant by being antagonists in the main plot, which I think
Yeah.
works for them as like his bandit group. But that allowed for both idol groups to be relevant. I don't know how you'd really get ahead with that in the next Splatoon game. Would you have Deep Cut be there and Pearl Marina not be? Would you have to somehow get Pearl Marina and Deep Cut all in there? Not Pearl, Callie and Marie and Deep Cut all in there, and then the new idol group, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
Like, I'm curious to see how they'll go ahead, and I think that will probably dictate whether Pearl and Marina remain as like the DLC focus. But I kind of hope they do, because I'm going to be real here. When Pearl and Marina got announced back in Splatoon 2, Pearl was like easily my least favorite of the idols.
People were not.
Like, yeah,
I really liked Pearl. People did not like
yeah,
Pearl.
I was definitely Team Marina, but as the Splatoon 2 went on, and especially through Splatoon 3 and this, Pearl is
Yeah.
easily the best one. Pearl is,
Pearl is
Pearl
my
is
favorite character.
through pure character and personality become like the best character in Splatoon. Love this little gremlin, she's great.
Yeah. And I do love that throughout the DLC side order. They don't say it, but it's so obvious.
It's so
obvious that they're in a relationship.
Marina has like a picture of Pearl as her laptop window, like wallpaper,
Yeah.
like just her Pearl lying there. They're talking about taking time out for both of them after the tour is done. Act basically tells them to get a room at one point while you're in the elevator. Like,
I just love their relationship. It keeps growing.
they're both. It's like Marina, super smart scientist DJ woman, and then Pearl is like just the very cocky and confident and like well-deserved cocky and confident.
Yeah, he's like the headstrong one.
Yeah, that Marina just like absolutely fawns over. I think it's great.
One thing I also appreciate about Splatoon 3 just in general is that in the same way that they actually put the musicians within like the actual world. So like within the main story we have Harmony that is just running like the store, the store. And we have Act, who was Deadfish in Splatoon 2 Octo expansion. She did all the music.
Yes.
But now in here, she's here as Act. I pronounce it as Act. I understand that it's supposed to be Oct. I think Act sounds cooler though.
Well, it's because it's it's just the German word for 8.
Yeah.
Act.
Oct. I think the fact that Act is also here and like I think her model actually looks a lot better than Harmony's as well. So I really wish that eventually like we could see more of the musicians within like the actual world.
I think we will. I think that they've set a precedent now where they're gonna find ways to justify doing the designs of other musicians. The other popular ones, because Harmony was definitely like one of the more popular musicians from Splatoon 2. Rightly so, because her music kicks ass. It's really good, her band's music. And Act makes a ton of sense in this one, being Deadfish being the one who did the music for the Octo expansion, so continuing that on here is a really good shout. I'm curious to see what musician they'll decide to focus on or introduce physically in the next game. I'm not super familiar with all the musicians of Splatoon 3 or just Splatoon series in general, but I like it as well. I think turning some of these previously just 2D art background characters and giving them a bit of a presence is a very fun choice.
Right.
But yeah, no, I really like Pearl and Marina. I really like all the characters in this DLC. So I guess sort of we'll come towards the end of this review now, I think, because I think we've touched upon a lot of stuff. But one key question I've got is whether you prefer this DLC or what they did in Octo expansion, because they're very different takes on doing DLC. This is a roguelike, obviously. It's entirely designed around being repeating the same runs over and over again, just with different weapons and loadouts and unlocking more stuff. Whereas Splatoon 2's DLC is more like the main story, but like significantly more challenging, with significantly more unique level ideas and missions, with a more free and open structure to approach things, letting you set your own difficulty with missions and challenges. Like, people have opinion. I think a lot of it, I think, comes down to how well you jive with roguelikes. But I know one of the common complaints I've seen about this DLC is that it's too short, and I think that comes from people who managed to clear their first run like immediately. Yeah. Like, it took me a while to get through this, and that's because I'm just not that great at Splatoon. So it took me several runs to finally beat the game with every single weapon. And so I felt like I got a lot out of it. But I know people who beat a lot of the runs on their first attempt through, and so beat this DLC in like half the amount of time it took me, and feel like there wasn't much here, especially to justify the year-long wait everyone had for it.
Yeah, I can understand people's sentiment. It's, for me, it's just like because it's so fun. Because I had so much fun with it, even though I included like my first run, and just there's so much charm with it within the characters. It's like it's a little hard for me to to realize. Oh wait, people aren't taking a liking to it. That's really surprising. Because I like. There's not really too many down points to it. I would say to answer your question. There are reasons why I like Octo Expansion, because there are difficult stages where you can pick your weapon, and the weapon that you pick is kind of like there's set weapons that you pick for that stage, and then that's kind of the challenge where like, oh, can you? It's gonna be either hard mode, easy mode, or the normal mode, and the fact that hey, do this, and then if you mess it up, you die instantly. I really like that. Whereas now, but once you've already completed, because it's not like you have to do every stage. Once you completed it, now it's kind of, oh, do you want to go back and do the other stage that you haven't completed? And if you don't want to, or even if you try to, if you're interested in completing it, now it's kind of just that you have to. You're at that point where, okay, are you going to complete it? And that's kind of the hard part for it. The hard part in regards to wanting to play more of it. Whereas for side order, I would say the hard part of wanting to play it comes from starting a new run. Because when you're starting from zero, it's kind of like, oh, do I want to... Especially if you lost the run already, it's like, oh, I just lost this run. I wish I had the amount of power I did before. And you kind of have to build back up to it, and likely your run is very much not going to be the exact same. Yeah. So while it is hard to start, it also is once you start it and you're into it, now it's like, oh, I feel so much fun. I'm really enjoying this new build that I have now. And starting over is the hard part, but just being in it is now where it's incredibly fun. There are no downsides really, unless you're finding yourself having some trouble. Which, also, if you didn't know, you can go back to the elevator once you die and then leave the stage and then try a different stage. So I think they both have, and also the fact that Octo Expansion was kind of what they did with Octo Expansion was taken into the main story for Splatoon 3. I've had a lot more time with it. With that kind of setup where it's like, oh, I really do like Octo Expansion. Whereas for side order, or just the amount of time with it, it's not even that I want the main story to be focused on like this setup. I would like if the multiplayer had some remnants of side orders gameplay. Like if there's you're able to pick one chip ability that you pick with you, so that way there's actually more diversity in people's play styles with their weapons and stuff of that nature. Whether they'll actually do it, I doubt, but it's something that I would really like to see happen.
Yeah, I'm curious of what they're going to be doing for the next game. So I think, comparing this to Octo Expansion, I think I preferred Octo Expansion, but that's entirely just because I think I prefer the challenge from that as opposed to the roguelike nature of this one. I like roguelikes, but if I had to pick between the two of them, I think having the set challenges and being able to do that was more enjoyable to me than just playing a roguelike. But I like that they attempted to do a different sort of play style here with Splatoon, and I kind of want whatever they do for the DLC for Splatoon 4 to also be trying to take Splatoon in a new genre. Like do something else with the Splatoon general gameplay and try and change it up. I think that was for the best.
Like a more action-oriented Splatoon game would actually be pretty cool. Well, I don't want to say, like, when I say game, I don't mean like a whole game, but I do mean like, within the story mode, if you're doing more action, rather than action and platforming. I think that'd be interesting.
Like, because with Octo Expansion, I don't think there's anything that Splatoon has done, including in this game and this DLC, that has been as fun as the stealth mission in Octo Expansion. Where it starts you off with like no weapons and you have to sneak around and avoid enemies and try and pick up the weapons and get all your upgrades back. Like, I think that's like the best level in any Splatoon game. So I'd be totally up for seeing that sort of fleshed out, or an idea similar to that be used.
Splatoon. High espionage Splatoon.
Yeah, Metal Gear Splatoon.
Yeah.
But they are different genre types, and so we can't really compare roguelike to mission-based thing. It's definitely a preference, I think.
I would say though that
for their attempt at a roguelike here, they've done a good job.
I would say that one thing that as well that I do like I like about Octo Expansion more than Side Order is Side Order takes place in its setting is in one place. It's just in a tower, whereas in Octo Expansion you're seeing a lot of different environments.
Yes.
That like not some that are also seem to be like kind of like outside, or like try to replicate the outside environments from like within the stages, within the multiplayer. And then the story is you're actively going somewhere because it's an entire it's a train station. Yeah. So yeah, you literally are going somewhere, and then the story ends in a completely different place as well. Like that you come outside of the underground, and now Octoling, you as an Octoling, or Octolings in general, I guess, depending on how you want to view it, are now free and are able to go to Incomplete Square. Octo Expansion is more like a journey, whereas because Side Order is a virtual world, it's kind of like I guess if you could kind of compare it to maybe like a VR missions kind of thing.
Yeah,
I guess.
I mean, technically that is what this is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree with you, actually. On the presentation front, there's nothing in this. I like the kind of what they've done with the whole white aesthetic. I like 8's design in this, with the white jumpsuit and stuff. I really like how the different color chips change the color of your ink, and the two tones of Agent 8's hair and stuff like that. Absolutely. That is really cool.
The amount of combinations that you can have are crazy.
But the actual visuals of the world is definitely not up to par with what Octo Expansion had. With like nothing beats its level with the floating game consoles in the background.
Yeah,
bizarre like massive regular items and stuff like that. That kind of odd dreamscape. That's still the best looking visuals. A lot of this does, especially because you obviously go up the tower several times back to back. It does start to feel very samey.
However, if you do like, I would say if you do like Nier, Side Order looks. I feel like it takes a lot of inspiration from Nier in certain parts of Nier with its visuals.
I mean, that was the joke when it got announced.
The fact that you have a drone, kind of like 2B has a drone, where you're also able to like fly around with it. There are definitely what I feel like are obvious Nier references that I kind of wish that maybe if when the art book drops, or if they do like some sort of developer interview, they actually just straight up say, yeah, we were inspired by Nier in terms of the visuals. Because I would just like them to, if that's not the case, I'd be very surprised. But it feels like it's so obvious. Be like, hey, where your inspiration like on your that you were inspired by this thing. Yeah, because I never got tired of the way Side Order looked. Especially like how you mentioned with the two-tone colors, like just noticing that I was like, oh snap, I like the fact that my color has changed. I like or certain like other details, like hey, if you are playing in handheld mode, you can tap the color chips and they actually make different sounds. So if you just happen to do that, you can make a little song and record it if you wanted to. Like there is a lot of nice details within Side Order, but I do still really like Octo Expansion's underground aesthetic, and then also coming like basically coming up from underground, you're coming out into the real world, or what is this new world for Octolings.
No, I don't think I ever got tired of the visuals. I think it's more of a case that I became like apathetic to the way that the stages in the background look. Like in Octo Expansion, I was like consistently like impressed with the level the level design and the way that everything looked. Whereas other than the ink, the visuals, like all the background stuff, like on screen, like right now, you got all the conveyor belts moving stuff, like that stuff. Right. I just didn't notice or pay attention to at all while playing, because I was just like, it started to blend together so much that I just really didn't care at that point, and I just focused more on the gameplay aspect of it. I do like the design of the gelatins, though. The enemies in this game, those have got really cool designs. The really creepy bonefish and stuff like that. Oh, I've come to the end of your video. I guess that's a sign to start wrapping this review up. So I guess that obvious thing here is that we both recommend the Side Order DLC. We both enjoyed it. Both recommend people to pick it up. I guess if you have any closing thoughts on Side Order as a whole, or that you want to share with the audience before we move on.
Side Order is incredibly fun. If you like roguelites already, then you'll have fun with this, and especially in regards to a third-person shooter roguelike, and with, of course, the Splatoon flair of, you know, the aspect of painting the floor to get around in that type of movement. And if you already like Splatoon, then I think you're just getting more Splatoon with this, and a different style of Splatoon as well. So there's already a lot for you to just get from it, because it'll be challenging. You could also pick how you go about said challenge. When it comes to Side Order, you get to choose your order and how you want the entire thing to go, which it's you're kind of fighting against order, but at the same time you are very much in control of order as well. It's kind of funny when you think about it in that way, but it's a lot of fun, especially if you're playing with other people as well, instead of like doing run challenges, like always like if you just something that my friends were doing was they would pick the most difficult challenge, or like the bottom deck, because it would always be the most difficult challenge, and then they would just do that one each time. So it's kind of like there are certain challenges that you can just impose on yourself, like using all of your hacks, or using no hacks, or using only one specific hack. There is so much variety, and so that can give you a lot of time with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I agree with all of that. I think Side Order is a lot of fun. Obviously, your mileage is going to vary depending on entirely how much you enjoy roguelike games and how much you're willing to go for the grind and attempt to do everything over and over again to make your way to the top. There is a lot of stage variety, even though there's only 5 mission types plus bosses. But there's like a lot of map variety to make those missions feel unique every time. It'll obviously only start getting a bit repetitive once you're on your 10th to 15th run through. But you're meant to change weapons every time, and how many runs you'll end up doing will depend entirely on how good you are as a player and how good you are with Splatoon. It took me ages because I'm not good with Splatoon, but and it was definitely frustrating at times. It's always frustrating getting really far and then losing everything and having to go back to the start. But I still enjoyed it, and I think what it does for Splatoon's story and the world, and especially in its characters, especially Pearl and Marina, is like super up there. It's really good story wise, and it's easily made this cast my favorite set trio in Splatoon, in the Splatoon series, Pearl, Marina, and 8.
Absolutely.
I hope we get to see more of them. I particularly like that 8 gets to stick around. And she's technically 8 is the Splatoon character we've played as the most. Because really? Because Splatoon 1 is Agent 3, and then Splatoon 2 is Agent 4, and then Splatoon 5. I don't know what agent number she is.
Wait, I'm sorry, Splatoon 5?
No, Splatoon 3. I wanted to say Splatoon 3 is Agent 5, but I don't actually know if she is Agent 5 or if that's Pearl or Marina, because I don't remember what their numbers are.
I think I want to say Splatoon 3 is also Agent 4, I thought.
No, it's not. No.
Really?
Yeah, no, it's a different Inkling, pretty sure, in Splatoon 3. It's a new inkling. I'm pretty sure it is, like, because they talk about Agent 4 in the Octo expansion in some one-off DLC line. So it's definitely it's just like saying what Agent 4 was doing now. Because Agent 4 also has a palette that you can unlock in Splatoon Inside Order. Like, they've got in fact, theirs is the Order Shot one, the Splatter Shot one. That's Agent 4's. I just don't know if it's Agent 5 or not, whoever is the Splatoon 3 pro tag. Anyway, the point is it's a different pro tag. Right. And 8 technically makes Agent 8 the only time we've played as a previous character.
Gotcha.
So we'll see how it goes in the future. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed Side Order. All I would suggest is that next time Nintendo don't announce it a year in advance, maybe make that wait for the DLC a bit shorter.
In Splatoon 3, you are the new Agent 3. That's right.
The new Agent 3. That's
yeah.
What it's called. Okay.
You take on old Agent 3's role because she's now the captain.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's like I knew it wasn't Agent 5 or 6. Is there even an Agent 7?
I assume that Pearl and Marina would probably be Agent 5 and or 6 because they also make contact with.
I think they're 5 and 6, but then Agent 8 is obviously 8 because of Octo, which just means that there isn't an Agent 7 unless Cuttlefish already knows an Agent 7 and it's not been revealed to us yet.
Perhaps.
But yeah, I would recommend it as well. I think it's a good thing to play. So that does it for the review. But before we wrap up Good Morning Source Gaming, I thought we would just talk about what we expect to see next from Splatoon. This won't be a particularly long segment, and we already kind of talked about it at the start anyway. That like Splatoon 4 is obviously going to be coming out for the Switch too. Its theming will most likely be decided by whatever ends this Splatfest, like the final Splatfest that's going to happen at the end of the Sizzle thing. I guess. What is that? I suppose my question with Splatoon, right, is the IP is clearly big enough that do you think we will see some spin-offs for it finally? Because in a way, this is a spin-off. Side Order is a completely different take on the Splatoon. It still plays the same as Splatoon, but it's a roguelike instead of being a third-person team shooter. So do you think we could see... But it's treated as DLC because it's using the same engine. Do you think we could see other spin-offs? It's always hard to know what Nintendo do with spin-offs because Mario obviously has a ton of them. But and Pokemon obviously also has a ton of them. But Zelda, which is like Nintendo's next big series, its only other S-tier franchise, doesn't have a lot of spin-offs. It has the Tingle games and it has Crossbow Training and Hyrule Warriors. But then, it depends if you count Four Swords as a spin-off or not, or if you count them as main games.
I would not consider Side Order a spin-off because so much of its story is connected to things that are within the context of... are directly connected to the context of the Splatoon games that we have as a whole.
Yeah.
And most of the gameplay, even though it's a roguelike system, most of the gameplay is like very much within the same vein. Like if you wanted to, you could also see aspects of Side Order to be very similar to Salmon Run. And I feel like for a spin-off, I would want to see more of the world outside of just different stages. And I'm not saying I want an open world Splatoon game. Absolutely not. I would not want that. But just something where like we're exploring like actual towns where you have, or just maybe even a completely different gameplay style, but it's still with Splatoon characters. So like maybe some sort of like Splatoon skateboarding or rhythm game, or just something else that also still gave you like the aspect of keeping it fresh,
Yeah.
you're still in a sense of style, but with Splatoon.
I was gonna say, because you just mentioned, before you mentioned it, Rhythm Game I think is like the perfect Splatoon spin-off. Obviously,
Yeah,
Nintendo already has Rhythm Heaven as their Rhythm Game series, and they used to have Elite Beat Agents as well. I mean, they still own Elite Beat Agents; they just haven't done anything with it.
yeah. And Splatoon 2
But
has a rhythm game in it.
yeah, Splatoon 2 has a rhythm game in it, just like how Splatoon 3 has a card game in it.
Yeah,
But like a full-on Splatoon rhythm game using all the music, and this is how you get the musicians and stuff into it.
right.
It could be something like the Persona dancing games. Maybe not playing like that, but that sort of idea where this inkling, you have your own inkling that you can customize, or Octoling that you can customize, and then
Right.
you do rhythm game to all the Splatoon music. That feels like the perfect follow on from the perfect sort of spin off this series could have. Because I guess the question is, like, if you were to do a spin off of Splatoon, like, what could you have that couldn't also just be part of Splatoon
The main
itself as a
game.
side story? Because like
Yeah.
I had a thought suddenly like of like a fashion game, kind of like the Fashion Dreamer, but then I'm like, well,
Yeah.
actually, you basically already do that in the main game, right? Like, there's no
Right.
tangible rewards or benefits for dressing up your Inkling, like, other than like the perks you get in combat from it.
Yeah.
Like, but you dress your Inkling up how you want to do it. It's not a fashion game. It doesn't have all the fashion game sort of mechanics. It's just aesthetic. But is that good enough that you don't really need to make a fashion Splatoon game?
I feel
So
like if you wanted to do like a fashion Splatoon game, you should like give it some connectivity to the main game, so where it's like, oh, you can design your own clothes and then you can send it over to Splatoon 3 or the next Splatoon game, and then you can actually wear those outfits. But then you then also have to kind of question of, okay, how would you balance that?
yeah,
Because that means that person could just set any abilities on it, or maybe the game would automatically set abilities on when you send it over. Now it sets abilities so that way you're not the player isn't in control of that.
yeah.
You could make it work, but that would also probably be, unless you're making like a whole adventure out of it, that would probably be like a smaller game where it's
Yeah,
gonna maybe
I feel
cost like
like
$30
I
or
feel like if
$40.
they do a crossover, something like that crosses over to the main game, it would be DLC. So that it
Yeah.
has that interconnectivity, kind of like Happy Home Designer in Animal Crossing. Do something like
Right.
that. I do like the idea of the skateboarding. Again, that fits very much with the Splatoon vibe, as well. That would be a neat one. Yeah, I'm just curious whether Splatoon is big enough, because Animal Crossing eventually got spin-offs as well. Like, it had the original Happy Home Designer game on 3DS, and then it got Amiibo Party, which we don't talk about.
Right.
But like, so I feel like Splatoon will get something at some point, unless they just decide that Side Order is a spin-off, and all the spin-offs will just be whatever they do for DLC, and they'll always play like Splatoon does. I'm sort of curious, because I feel like they'll want Splatoon to be relevant, obviously, because it's one of their big franchises, especially in Japan. But I feel like Splatoon 4, I wouldn't expect Splatoon 4 until like 2027. Like, I think we've got another like 3 years until the next Splatoon game. Because when you think about it, Splatoon 1 and then Splatoon 2, there was only a 2-year gap between. But then Splatoon 2 to Splatoon...
You mean in the endings, right?
No, I mean in
Oh, you
real
should know.
life.
Actually, no. 2015 and then 20. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. Right.
I mean, that's why it's 2 years, and then I think it's 5 years between Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3. Yeah, it is. Yeah, because it's 5 years in universe as well. Like, the in universe time that passes is the same as the amount of time it is for us to get games.
I think they do 4 years because they do it based upon the final Splatfest. I think it might have been 4 years instead of 5, but
No.
that's still like so close, anyways.
Yeah, it's I don't know if it's ever specifically specified, but because I mean, just going by this, you could argue that like a year in universe passed.
Yeah.
Like, as you could say, like, because it's been 2022, you could say it's been 2 years since Splatoon 3 started in universe.
Yeah. They do like our real world time is relative
To
to
their
their
real world
time.
time, yeah.
Yeah, I think if when you check Marina's diary, it also gives you it gives you a timestamp at the front that says like how many years ago as well, or
Hmm.
how long ago it was. So I think it
Yeah.
might be like 4.5 years or something like that.
Yeah. So like they follow the timeline exactly. Um so I'm curious like cuz I feel like 2027 is going to be the next is going to be when the next Splatoon game comes out, Splatoon 4.
Hmm.
But I wonder if they'll want to get anything Splatoon wise in I wonder if they'll want to get anything Splatoon wise out early in the Switch 2's life cycle between now and the next mainline game. Because it also obviously comes down to whether the Switch 2 is cross compatible, because in that case, which I'm assuming it is, because in that case people can just still play Splatoon 3, can't they? So
Yeah,
they
I
can
mean
still
people still
play
play
Splatoon
Splatoon too.
3. Yeah, but like when
Yeah.
there's a new system out, they can still play Splatoon 3 on the new system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I'd hope so. I would. I wouldn't want it to be the case where they end the service of Splatoon 2 or 3 because those are still they still play very differently.
Hmm.
Uh, even though like they wouldn't be supporting them anymore, and competitively they also wouldn't be receiving any tournaments.
I
I
mean,
feel like I'm just never a fan of games going down. So as when Splatoon
yeah.
4 comes out, I still think Splatoon 3 and 2 should be
I mean,
available, and then you
technically,
still be able to play 3
Splatoon
on
1's server is still up. It goes down soon because they're
yeah, in
turning
April.
it
But that's
in
also
April.
because
But it's been like almost a decade since then. So I wouldn't expect Splatoon 2 and
yeah,
3's to go down until they stop supporting Switch games online entirely, which is probably going to
yeah.
be longer given how the Switch 2 could just be a follow on from the Switch 1. And
That and
yeah, and
also if they attempt to have like the whole Switch Online. If
yeah.
Switch Online, well, if NSO they want to, I understand that right now NSO is specifically because we are in the Switch era. It is literally titled
Yeah.
that. But if we get to a after the Switch and they're still using like the same infrastructure,
Hmm.
then maybe they'll adapt the name and they would still have the service still be working for Switch, so that way you can still play those games online.
Yeah.
Because you kind of I say this because even though like they are going to be like, well, we would be saving money if we take those down and we can reallocate those resources to other things. Of course, as players, we don't want to lose out on those functionalities.
Hmm.
So I'm speaking more as a player rather than what Nintendo will do.
Yeah. Also, as Cyber, I know that the final Splatfest happened in 2019, but like as we were just saying a moment ago, time in the Splatoon world moves at the same time as it does for us. So when Splatoon 2 came out, like it aged, like the characters within it, time passed 2 years as the game was still actively being, I guess, developed for
Right.
and stuff. So it's been 4 years since the. I guess I should specify when Splatoon 3 came out, it had been 4 to 5 years since Splatoon 2 started, not
Right.
when it ended.
Yeah.
So I guess technically, since the last time it got Splatoon 2 got an update, it had only been 3 years between Splatoon 2, which I guess would line up with now, because if Splatoon 3 is going to end this year, and I don't expect to see Splatoon 4 until 2027, that is in 3 years.
Yeah.
So I suppose that would match the Splatoon 2 to Splatoon 3 different.
So weird to be talking about 2027.
Yeah, I know. My point is, I wouldn't expect to see a Splatoon game like in the first year of the Switch 2's life cycle, in the same way that Splatoon 2 came out very quickly after Splatoon 1 ended. Yeah. But yeah. I'll be curious to see what they do Splatoon wise after Splatoon 3 is wrapped up, and see if we get any spin-offs of some kind. Because I think
Right.
the world of Splatoon is pretty interesting, so I'd be curious to see what they get done of it. What they do. I guess, is there any other anything else you want to say about Splatoon before we wrap up the stream entirely?
I think I'm good. Uh, Nothing else I have to say. Side order. We spoke about side order. I guess the spin-offs. We talked about the potentialities. I think I'm leaning more towards maybe an action game, a Splatoon action game. It's something I would like to see. And Splatoon 4 is definitely gonna be a while away, so I'm not sure if they would want to do a spin-off game, or maybe if they make the decision to extend how long they support Splatoon 3 for, given that there's going to be some time, or if they want to do another expansion pass. I don't see that happening, but that'd be interesting. There's a lot of things that they could do, and I think their focus right now should probably be on continuing to support Splatoon 3 and making it better, as there are people with a lot of complaints about the base game. So if they can keep revitalizing or reviewing what isn't working or what is working, and then have Splatoon 3 have maybe like a good final like supported month where it's like, okay, this is like now it's at the game that is best version, and now we can have a complete proper send off where people are fully enjoying the game, then that'd be for the best at this point.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everyone who sat here and listened to us talk about Splatoon for like 2 hours. You're the freshest ones. On screen right now will be the credits with our patrons, the $5 up tier. You can join them by looking in the description down below. As we say at the end of every video, we actually have something coming out for patrons soon. It's going to be a long discussion that's going to be patron exclusive for a little while. It will eventually become public, but at least for the next little bit, it's going to be just for patrons. I got the audio for that this morning, so look forward to that if you are a patron. And if you want to listen to that, join. It will be a discussion on Phantasy Star between Snazzy and I.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's good. It's like 2 hours long, maybe. It was a way longer discussion than I was anticipating it to be. But yeah. Otherwise, like, subscribe, all that jazz, and always remember to return to the source.
Bye.